Hello, this is our group project about human resource management and technology used in Wells Fargo.
The company we chose is Wells Fargo. So the human resource management system at Wells Fargo is laid out on their website. It says the HR organization is responsible for building and implementing strategies, programs, and infrastructure to identify, develop, and retain top talent for the company. So that's their goals of their HR department at Wells Fargo, and the biggest things that they do as an organization. They also say that the organization supports a range of areas, including the employee experience, consulting, operations /systems /technology, learning, talent planning and development, employee relations, total rewards, and people analytics. That's just a few things of what the HR department at Wells Fargo does, and that was all taken from the wellsfargojobs.com website under the human resource page. Companies use career management, which is a process that helps employees develop skills and align their goals with the organization to advance their career. So companies can do this by having good training and really showing the employees everything that they need to know and that they will be using their skills, and monitoring how well people are keeping up. Companies also really need good mentors and coaching to lead the employees so they know what their goal is and where they should be going with their career. Companies really focus on developing skills that employees will need, again, to advance their career and what will make them better employees. There's many different ways employees can do all of this. Companies also want to capture the skill level of their employees for many different reasons. The main reasons is to improve employees and to boost productivity and their growth, and let the employees really align with the talent and the needs of the company. So there's a few different ways to do this. Companies can have their employees do self-assessment, which takes a lot of self-awareness in employees, and they have to, be honest about how they think they're doing and how they think they can improve, which may not always be good if, employees are not as self-aware, which is why manager and peer reviews also can be used to capture skill levels, because managers and other peers are hopefully more likely to be honest and to see where their peers need to improve. Those are more opinion based, so companies can do skill tests or questionnaires that are more factual based, where there's a right and a wrong answer, and they can see what the employees do know and what they don't know. So that's more factual and less opinion based, like I said, like self-assessments and peer reviews would be. Wells Fargo uses technology to do this. It's skill management software. A few of them include Talent Guard, Skills-Based, Pluralsight Skills, and they just use that technology to do these kind of assessments on employees and see where their skill level is. There are tools that companies can use to capture skill inventory. For example, Wells Fargo uses Workday and Beamery as their tools that they use to basically do their HR functions, and just makes it easier. So the ones that they use are Workday and Beamery. Workday is an AI platform for managing HR and finance, and Wells Fargo uses it as an applicant tracking system tool. So they use it to track their employees, and so they make sure they know where everyone is and what everyone needs and what they need to be doing, and it helps them keep track in the HR department better. And then Beamery is an AI platform for workforce transformation, and Wells Fargo uses it as a customer relationship management tool. So, again, another HR resource, technology for Wells Fargo to use to make sure the customer relationships and the employee management relationships are good, and they can keep track of anything related to HR that may come up or that they may need to know about. So these websites make it easier for Wells Fargo to capture the skills and information about their employees. Both websites provide how-to guides on their websites. So Workday has a how-to guide. They offer many different training sessions, videos, notes, everything like that for companies to use, how to use their service, Workday. So they, can provide scheduling and labor training and help to improve productivity and save costs, as well as normal talent and management aspects of the company. It just keeps, the company more organized, and Workday provides these how-to guides for companies to use if they need help figuring out the best way to keep their company efficient. And same with Beamery. Their how-to guide focuses more on the skill set of employees and how to maximize the skills of employees. Like the first one is becoming a skills first organization. So it shows companies how to really enhance the skills and use the skills that they teach their employees and what the employees have as beneficial as they can in the organization. And that's most of the how-to guides on Beamery's website.
Hello, I'm Peyton Tuhy, and for this part of our group presentation, I'll be focusing on how Wells Fargo uses people analytics and the technology behind it. Wells Fargo is one of the largest financial institutions in the United States. With over 200,000 employees, so managing employee data manually would be impossible. To support its HR operations, Wells Fargo uses Workday as its main human resource management system, also known as an HRMS. Workday acts as a central hub for employee records, payroll, recruiting, performance management, compensation, and workforce analytics. All of this information flows into one secure system, which allows HR leaders to analyze trends across workforce. People analytics is what allows Wells Fargo to take that massive amount of information and turn it into useful reports for decision making. Instead of relying on assumptions, leadership can use real-time data to understand workforce performance, retention, diversity, and compensation. The screenshot shown is from a slide in the Workday press release confirming that Wells Fargo adopted this platform, which provides that this technology actively used in HR operations. This slide focuses on how Wells Fargo uses people analytics specifically for diversity and workforce analytics. Through Workday's workforce analytics tool and internal HR dashboards, Wells Fargo tracks employee demographics across the entire organization. This includes data on gender, race, ethnicity, job levels, and leadership roles. This information is used to measure progress toward diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Wells Fargo publicly releases this data each year through its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion report. These reports allow both company leadership and the public to see how the organization is doing with representation at different levels of the company. People analytics technology helps Wells Fargo identify gaps in leadership diversity, evaluate hiring practices, and ensure equal opportunity across its workforce. The screenshot on this slide comes directly from one of Wells Fargo's official DEI reports, showing real employee demographic charts. This confirms that their people analytics system is not just internal, it is also used for public accountability and compliance reporting. This slide highlights how Wells Fargo uses people analytics for compensation and pay equity. Inside Workday's module, HR analysts at Wells Fargo conduct annual pay equity audits. These audits compare employee compensation by gender and race while controlling for job level, location, and experience. The purpose of these audits is to ensure that employees are being paid fairly and that there are no unjust wage gaps. If any pay disparities are identified, Wells Fargo corrects them. The results of these pay equity reviews are publicly disclosed in Wells Fargo's annual SEC filings and human capital reports. People analytics technology is essentially here because manually checking pay equity across hundreds of thousands of employees would be impossible. These systems quickly analyze compensation data, identifying trends and flagging potential issues. The screenshot on this slide comes from Wells Fargo's annual report, where they openly discuss their pay equity commitment and results. This shows how people analytics directly supports ethical compensation practices. Headcount and employee turnover reporting at Wells Fargo. Using workforce planning tools built into Workday and internal HR reporting dashboards, Wells Fargo tracks the total number of employees across the company. They also monitor voluntary turnover, which is when employees choose to leave, and involuntary turnover, which includes layoffs or terminations. These people analytics reports help leadership understand which business areas are growing, which are shrinking, and where retention problems may exist. For example, if one department has unusually high turnover, HR can investigate this cause and take corrective action, such as improving training, compensation, or leadership. Wells Fargo also publicly releases total workforce size in investor and human capital reports, which confirms that this data is actively tracked through people analytics systems. This slide focuses on how people analytics operates internally at Wells Fargo from a technology standpoint. At Wells Fargo, people analytics is embedded within their broader human resources and human capital management operations. As employees, related data such as performance, compensation, workforce trends, and turnover flow through their HRMS systems, which is empowered by enterprise-level technology like Workday. Internally, this data is used by HR leaders and executives to make strategic workforce decisions, such as identifying future staffing needs, measuring leadership effectiveness, improving retention, and evaluating organizational performance. These analytics tools allow leadership to move from reactive decision-making to predictive planning. Even though these dashboards are not publicly visible due to employee privacy and data security laws, they play a critical role in guiding how Wells Fargo manages and develops its workforce. This shows that people analytics is not just about reporting, it is a core decision support system within the company's HR structure. This slide explains the difference between people analytics data that is made public and the data that remains internal at Wells Fargo. Publicly available data includes diversity statistics, pay equity results, and total workforce size. The information is shared through DEI reports, annual reports, and SEC filings so that investors, regulators, and the public can evaluate the company's employment practices. However, much of Wells Fargo's people analytics data is kept internal for privacy and security reasons. This includes employee performance evaluations, recruiting pipelines, promotion decisions, and predictive turnover models. These reports are only available to HR leadership and executives because they contain sensitive personal information. This separation is important because it protects employee privacy while still allowing the company to use advanced analytics for strategic planning. Even though not all dashboards are visible to the public, Wells Fargo's public disclosure clearly confirms that advanced people analytics technology plays a major role in their HR operations.
Hi, this is Dalyce, and I'm going to be discussing some of the different ways that Wells Fargo is using AI in its human resource management systems. So first, let's look at some of the different companies that Wells Fargo is partnering with to provide these AI functions. First, they're using ServiceNow, mostly to manage their workflows and automate the ones that they can. They're also using Beamery to streamline talent management and their CRM practices. And then the big one that they use is Workday, which is what they use to track and manage the data on its employees and its applicants as well. One thing to take note of is during our initial research, we were finding a lot about Wells Fargo and their partnership with Google Cloud and the AI systems of Google Cloud. But this is only what they're using for customer use right now. It's not something they're really using in their AI or in their HR functions, So when we're looking at the first company that Wells Fargo collaborates with, ServiceNow, we're really looking at their innovative AI agents that can be used by any of the employees at Wells Fargo. This improves their productivity by decreasing the workload of the HR managers and then therefore increasing the general employees' satisfaction with wait times. When we look at some of the more specific functions, the HR managers have access to things like the Data Explorer and the AI Lens, which help them to keep track of the data on employees, manage that data, and then make adjustments where needed. Whereas the general Wells Fargo employee would have access to things like the AI web agents and the AI voice agents, which then can help them answer any HR questions that are a little bit more general, that they don't need a super specific answer on. Those two agents can help comb through things like articles or the loads and loads of HR paperwork that most employees normally have to sort through. Our next company that we're going to be looking at is Beamery. So Beamery is mainly used by Wells Fargo as a communication tool. It can be used to create and invite potential candidates to in-person and virtual recruitment events. Wells Fargo also uses it to monitor the application process of each candidate and track their overall return on investment. So you can kind of see from some of the different pictures, there's things like automated campaigns, but also things like they can create social media posts and still make sure that they're maintaining the brand image that they want to be maintaining, which is super important. And then the final company that we're going to be looking at is Workday. Workday is the main company that Wells Fargo works with for human resource management. It's used in almost all areas of Wells Fargo HR. And the big thing that it does, kind of like Beamery, but it's more so focused on that, would be recognizing trends in data. But then with that AI function, Workday can take the data that it's analyzed and then present it to the HR managers in a more clear and plain language format, whereas Beamery doesn't do that quite as well. So things like generating reports on personnel or candidates. It can summarize feedback from employees. So if you have multiple employees giving feedback on something, the AI can go in and then pull out the main points from that. And then it can also summarize quantitative data, things like sales, things like turnover rates, all of that kind of stuff. And so Workday is probably their most useful AI asset that they use. One thing that we found that was really interesting is that not only does Wells Fargo work independently with Workday and with Beamery, but Workday and Beamery also work together with Wells Fargo. So supporting the U.S. military has been a large part of the Wells Fargo company values, and this is evident through their military talent and strategic sourcing team. This team utilizes the functions of both Beamery and Workday, and that has yielded really great results for them over the last couple of years. So they've specifically noticed a 700% increase in military candidates from 2020 to 2024. Just for reference, 2020 would have been before Beamery was working with Wells Fargo and Workday, and then 2024 would be after that switch. And so they've noticed that increase with the addition of Beamery into their working. They've also noticed an 80% reduction in manual emails that were deemed unnecessary, and they've taken note of over 10,000 job seekers who they've identified and communicated with. So this has been a really great collaboration for Wells Fargo and for Workday and Beamery. And just to round everything out, here are the sources that we used on this presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to CaVanna or Peyton or myself, and we would be happy to answer them. And I hope you enjoyed.